Greetings, nerds. This is Cena Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Pauls. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, sir. How you doing this Tuesday evening?
I'm doing good.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
we're winding down in December.
yeah, I know. I was just looking at the schedule and the calendar, and I'm like, man, it's already gone. It's like feels like the month is already like gone. I finally did get my Christmas decorations up though, so that was good.
Yeah. December has this weird way of starting, and then you're just like, why are we already here? And then before you know it's over. You're
Yeah,
just
yeah. It's
like,
like the 10th, but I feel so like far behind as far as like
right.
everything.
Yeah.
And just and just looking at like the day job as far as like things that need to get done before the end of the year. And we were just talking right before we hit recording, the office Christmas parties, and just everything seems to be backloaded as far as like shows and movies and stuff. So it's just sort of like, man, this is like a lot of stuff is like packed, and
Yeah.
there's only a few weeks left of 2024.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And now and as you especially get that sense of the end of the year when the Golden Globes come out of the woodwork and drop
Hmm.
nominations.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm just gonna call a spade a spade. Who else only loves to look at the Golden Globe nominations just to see what kind of weirdness they did with the whole category situation? Because
Yeah.
let me tell you, I actually opened this, and the very first thing I saw was Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy. What
Hmm.
the fuck is The Substance doing there? I've
I
heard
haven't.
about that movie.
Yeah.
I've heard about that movie. I doubt anyone would say that that was either a musical or a comedy.
Yeah. Yeah. The Globes, and I think we've had this conversation
Yeah,
too with the
every year.
Bear every year. Like, and I know the Globes
But
now are done by a different organization because I guess the Hollywood Foreign Press had a big scandal, I guess a couple years ago and stuff. So it's a new regime running the thing, but they still have the
right,
same messed up categories.
right.
Yeah.
Right. The
Yeah.
bear is one thing.
Hmm.
The substance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, go and watch the trailer for it, and then come back to us, and let us know. Does that belong in that category? Because
Yeah.
I
Well, every.
I just don't understand that. And I have watched challengers. That's like the bear area
Mhm.
where, okay, you want it to get recognition. It's not going to beat out some of the stuff in the drama category. So you put it in there and allow that. And it's not that it's not funny. It's
Mhm.
just it's more about a sex.
Maybe comedy includes dark comedy, and maybe that's where the substance is like why it
Oh,
was nominated in
I'm
that category.
I'm sure, but I
But
mean, the way people were talking about that movie and how disturbing it is, I'm like,
yeah,
wouldn't that make it a horror? But
yeah,
there's no category for horror, so what are you gonna do?
exactly. Yeah,
What
so
are
this
you gonna
is
do?
yeah, we'll just shoehorn it in there, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did they put the penguin? I thought they
Uh,
put that in a weird place as well, but I could be
so
wrong.
so no, it actually was like in a proper category. So it was a limited TV series, along with, and it also is going up against Monsters, the
Yep.
Menendez story, and a couple other shows as well. I can't remember. I don't have the full list in front of me right now, but I did note that that was where it was nominated, and I couldn't. I had whenever I saw that Monsters was nominated, I did have to, just to take it into some of the events of the week with the United Healthcare um,
Mm,
um,
yep.
CEO that got murdered. Um, that whole story, they did apprehend a guy, and and people who are like cheering this, y'all need to go touch some grass. But that being said, the guy who is accused of murdering that healthcare CEO, and I saw it on social media, and when I saw the photos, I was like, yeah, you're right. I mean, it looks like Dave Franco, and this is like
Yep.
and the story is completely Ryan. Ryan Murphy has his next plot and movie for American Crime Story already made for him with this incident. So
Yeah, like 5
yeah,
years from now.
yeah, 5 years. Yeah,
Yeah,
been
yeah.
after
Like
yeah,
technically, he's already working on his next American Crime Story with Charlie Hunnam, so
yeah,
that's already
yeah,
been announced.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
But
I am
that'll be the next one. Yeah.
I'm very happy to see Nobody wants this get some love. Um, in some of the categories.
Mhm.
Trying to see if it got. I would assume, yeah, it did get nominated for Best Television Series, Musical, or Comedy. That is, in fact, a comedy.
Mm.
Actually, I think it was the weekend before last, I did put it on randomly as some white noise in my house
Okay.
and just started rewatching the season. And it's good. It's just surprisingly delightful that show has been. Yeah, and then the usual suspects. Glad to see Catherine Hahn get some love for Agatha Long,
Yep.
rightfully so.
Yep.
That's a very, you know, I'm not usually one to speculate about the best performance by a female actor in a television series, musical, or comedy, but that's a pretty
That's a stat category.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's more stacked than some of the male performance categories. So interesting. Well,
Yeah.
what
And then yeah, and
we
I know we got, I guess, House of the Dragon. The only thing I think they got nominated for was, I guess, Emma Darcy got it for, I guess, Best Actress in a Drama. But
not surprised.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Not not really. Based on just reactions, because like we've also talked about this and how the voters do tend to lean to, okay, so what are people talking about?
yeah.
And as much as people did talk about House of Dragon, it wasn't as positive as the first season.
No, no. When you look at the drama categories, because you got Day of the Jackal, you got The Diplomat, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Shogun, which we watched both of those, Slow Horses, and Squid Game. Those were really the, I guess, buzzworthy shows pretty much just this past television season.
Okay, what? See, right there, thank you for bringing this up. They've already nominated Squid Game 2. It's not even out.
So I think it's the original Squid Game, if I recall.
So that makes no sense because the original Squid Game came out like
Oh,
3 years
actually,
ago.
no, you're right. You're right. It is season 2. It is season 2.
Yeah,
You're right.
it
Yeah.
is. It
Yeah.
is. I like was looking and I saw that and I was like, and I saw it didn't have a 2 next to it and I was like,
Yeah.
what? But that
Yeah.
came out like 3 years ago. There's no way
Yeah.
in hell. And
Yeah.
then I saw something else later today and it said Squid Game 2 and I'm like, it's not even fucking out.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what is this? What is this? Like
The fix
I
is in.
don't understand.
It's like Drake and, accusing, the payola is like already in with Netflix, and and the Golden Globes are like, hey,
It's
give us a little bit of love here for your consideration.
well, it's like Squid Game blew up much
Mhm.
to many people's surprises, so much that they're like, oh, we missed out an opportunity, so we're just going to sneak them in because they're going to premiere at the end of this month. So
Yeah. Yeah. So it's technically that they'll just get it in.
it makes no sense.
I know.
It makes no sense. I don't understand, but then again, this is why we like to heckle the Golden Globe nominations because there's
Exactly.
always little things,
There
all
is.
these weird things. And I don't know if this is a weird thing, but it's kind of again a cycle, a system. Yeah, that makes sense. With the news that Jeremy Allen White is set to join the Star Wars franchise in the upcoming The Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Yeah, yeah. Give the guy a hit television show, give the guy a Calvin Klein ad, and put him in anything you can.
Yep, for sure. And the thing is, and it's not even a live action role. Apparently, he's going to be doing some voice work for Rhoda the Hutt. was Jabba's kid. So
Well, yeah,
this is so
they're
he's free.
they're
Yeah,
putting him to work just like they are their main actor with Pedro. Like
hmm
Pedro's in everything, and he gets away with it because most of the time in that show, it's not him.
exactly. Yeah,
Like,
it's Brendan Wayne walking around in that suit. So
yeah, yeah, it's
so
just, yeah, we'll see. Star Wars, if
yeah, but
I don't know about everyone. It's kind of like, okay.
mhm.
It's getting to the point where you're just like, okay, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, at least this one is actually they are. I have seen people on sound stages, so at least we know that this actually is happening, unlike a bunch of other Star Wars stuff. So
Right.
now, yeah. So yeah.
No one
So at
wants to
least
pull out that list. All the canceled, broken promises of Star Wars.
exactly. But yeah, but I'll have to give hat tip to Jeff Snyder and Christian Harloff. Jeff was the one that broke this news. So, uh, but yeah, when I saw that, I was like, huh, okay. But yeah, but we'll I guess as we were just saying, Jeremy's going to be popping up in a lot of things, and he's in a Disney family, so let's put him in everything that we have as far as under the Disney umbrella.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's, the funny thing about Jeremy Allen White is I watched Shameless. I
Mhm.
watched the first, I want to say up until like season 6 or 5, and then I
Mhm.
fell off.
Mhm.
But and he was a standout even then,
Yeah.
like as Lip. And I think it's a good thing that after Shameless ended, which I'm not sure exactly. I want to say the early 2010s it ended. I feel like there was a nice break so that when he returned in The Bear, now people aren't like, oh, there's Lip.
Yeah.
And it's funny. It's also interesting because both shows take place in Chicago. So,
Mm. Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure he might even be from there. And I'm sure that there's ties between the shows because there are some like weird similarities where I'm like, okay, I've never looked into it, but it's just interesting now, like for him to come into this potential mega superstar. And I say potential because sometimes what happens is there's a breakout star that then gets shoved down everyone's throats
Mhm.
and put in some of the worst movies and television shows. And before you know it, it's like, no, the audience does not want them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not saying that will happen because I mean the guy is still the lead of The Bear, and despite what happened with season 3, it's still a very good television show. So I mean it has at least one season left, and then you're just like, okay, it's never gonna get back to the magic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just
Yeah.
interesting.
It is.
Um, Also in news, the big question or the big speculation is the potential that Chris Evans will also be returning to the MCU in the upcoming Doomsday film. Do I have that right?
Yeah, it is Avenger Doomsday. That's correct. And and I don't know if the Russo brothers have confirmed it yet or not, but that's that was the other noteworthy thing that dropped yesterday. And I guess the thing is too is like we know we know it won't be Johnny Storm because if spoiler alert if you've watched Doomsday and Deadpool and Wolverine, you know why I'm saying that. If you haven't, then I just spoiled it for you, but I'm sorry. But
You're like,
but
I did not think this through.
yeah, I said spoiler alert, so I gave fair warning. I didn't give enough pause though. But anywho, the I guess the thing is, will he return as old Cap? I mean, or yeah, that's the only thing I can figure. I mean, if he comes back as young Cap, then it's like, yeah, y'all just like really messed up a great. Well, I mean, I guess at this point, I guess they don't care at this point because they're bringing back Robert Downey Jr. So I guess it doesn't
But
really
not
matter what.
But as
what
not dark.
yeah, but yeah, I know, but at this point, I don't know. I'm still, whenever like last summer, whenever we saw that he was coming back in Doomsday as Doctor Doom, whatever version, if it's a Stark or not, and now this news of Chris Evans is sort of like, all right, I don't know. It's just the stunt casting of it just kind of just rubs me the wrong way.
Right, right. Yeah. I saw this and I was like, well, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
and not even, and in my mind, it wasn't even question if he's coming back as Cap. I'm like, oh, so what bad guy is he gonna play?
Yeah.
Because that's what you do.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
You make all of the heroes that have fallen or we've lost in the first few phases. If they're gonna come back, they come back as bad guys.
Yeah,
What
and
was really interesting is if we get Scarlet Witch back. No, not Scarlet Witch.
Oh, Scarlett Johansson?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's still Black Widow because she didn't, her sacrifice, I don't know, they could do some very interesting things with that with Black Widow. So because it's a character in this whole story that kind of came in and then stuck the landing, only to get her own movie that kind of like filtered away. Granted, we got our sister out of it, who's probably going to be a standout in the Thunderbolts next year, in my opinion. But I've only seen the trailer. So I don't know. It is what it is. Like I find it so hard to speculate about anything anymore, just because I'm like, they're gonna do what they want. I'm not gonna cast it for them.
Yeah. Exactly. They're gonna make they what as soon as because at least with Deadpool and Wolverine, going back to that, spoilers, just go listen, at least whenever with that, the return in there was like, okay, fair. Yeah, I feel like we get one bite at the apple with this. And I feel like they used it with I feel like they used it with that film.
Well, not necessarily, because they did a very similar thing in No Way Home.
True. Yeah, that's true.
And No Way Home did it first. And I mean, I really did enjoy Deadpool and Wolverine. But No Way Home, what they managed to do, and everyone knew in the back of my mind those guys were going to show up. But the execution from start to finish, I really enjoyed the whole movie. And I think it helped having already to see Into the Spider-Verse. So I just, like, technically they've done it twice.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it is the multiverse saga. So, I mean, if you're going to do it, this is the time to do it. You're right.
Yeah, you have to. They definitely are. I think they're pinned against the wall where it's just like you started something. It's you got very thrown off course, unfortunately, both story wise and big villain wise, bad guy wise. And now you have to course correct. And so you got to kind of finish what you started while at the same time getting us to a place where we can start, like, we can bring in the X-Men, and Fantastic Four is coming next year.
That's true.
And that I think I'm gonna have a better idea of where we're going with these things after Fantastic Four. Not after Cap 4, not after Thunderbolts, but after Fantastic Four. Because that's really the and I say this because, like, that's the fresh, new thing. I know it's been done before about 4 different times, but, like, for the MCU, this is our new family that we're being introduced to without any necessarily familiar faces. Granted, I know.
I understand that. Yeah. I get your meaning. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that is the perfect note to leave off and wrap up with the series finale of Superman and Lois. We watched both the penultimate episode, which was episode 9, To Live and Die Again, and the 10th episode, which is called It Went By So Fast. It did go by so fast, except for the ending. And I'm just going to say this before Will says all of the nice things about this. It had, I should have clocked it. I didn't clock it, but I really want to know how long was the final monologue about the future and the epilogue that, in my opinion, was really unnecessary and really boring and just did not hit me at all in my feels the way it should have, and then the way it probably did for Will. And I was just like, this, why is this getting the Lord of the Rings treatment right now with the million endings?
As you've always reminded our listeners, because you're dead inside.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I'm dead inside, but it's just, I mean, the one that I rolled my eyes out as soon as they're like, yeah, we can forgive in the afterlife, and you see Lex, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
I kid, but I'm just I kid when I say that. But you said you shared that before, and you're right. So this is one of those moments where sometimes we agree, sometimes we are 180 degrees apart on things, and this is one of them. Or 360, whatever it is. Because to me, this ending worked. It hit me in the feels. I mean, it may have been a little bit of dusty in the house whenever I was watching it, and I mean, to your point about the back half of the finale. I mean, I mean, I think both episodes were really solid to me. I mean, it just really, because I think it's, for me, it really captured what was so special about this iteration of Superman. And I thought about this overall, like, why both Superman and Lois and Krypton overall. I mean, I know there's been ups and downs with each show. I mean, there's no show that's like perfect, but overall, I think you and I both have agreed that the reason why both those shows worked was because they took a character like Superman, and then they put their own unique. It took us on a different journey and a different spin on the Superman lore. And with this finale, for me, it worked because you took a character like Superman who's been virtually indestructible, and the thing that they've always done from the get with this show is making him relatable, and by making him a dad, making him a family man, of course in this season making him mortal, as far as with the literally getting his heart ripped out and having to do the transplant with Sam, and it just really was a real mortality tale on this character, and him having to in him living out his days, and of course and a very relatable thing that that we all have to deal with, which is just the passage of time and life and family and growth and forgiveness, that he with Lex and not holding grudges. I mean, all those elements to me worked and was really fitting for what they did with this character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Got nothing.
huh?
Yeah, nothing. It was funny to see that John Henry and Lana could actually appear in an episode together.
Yeah.
And that was the very last episode where we finally saw them share the screen together. fast forward a good 20 minutes and then suddenly they're getting married.
Yeah.
Like a year later.
Yeah, well, I guess John Henry almost getting killed. I guess because I know the way they when it finally did get set up and they're actually out on a date. Uh, they were like have talking about breaking things off, and then of course the whole fight happens and stuff. So yeah, that was a bit rushed, but but at the
Yeah.
end of the yeah, but at the end of the day, they were able to. I guess having all the characters, who basically all the people come back for the finale, they
Oh,
were
they
able
had
to,
so many people come back.
they
So
were able
many
to close
people.
out everybody's stories. Yeah,
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 yeah. I mean, that's what finales are for. And it's I just poke fun at it because they closed out all of these stories, but looking back at the entire season of this last season, the stories, like, it was very much just heavy Clark and Lois, as it should be,
hmm
and the siblings, and it felt less like an ensemble as in previous seasons.
yeah,
So for it to get the last few episodes and suddenly the last one where it's like, oh yeah, we have all of these characters. I mean, I felt like they even gave Jordan and Jonathan friends that we hadn't seen maybe since the first season, and I'm like, why can't we see Nat more? What's
yeah,
going on? So and I know there was budget cuts and this is the final season, and I understand all of that, but
yeah, yeah,
it's I still need to poke fun at it because it's kind of humorous.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a bit. I will agree. It was a bit jarring. Just to all of a sudden everything. That like well, to the example that you shared with John Henry and Lana. I mean, that was. Uh, they talked about it all throughout the season, and then and then finally we do get a date, and then we finally do get a date. They're like talking about breaking it off. So it's just like so from that regard, it did feel a little bit unearned as far as 1 year later they are married, but especially given that it seemed like a traumatic incident that like caused them to reevaluate things to be able to where I guess they did manage to patch things up. And then of course there's Christy and Kyle, and of course where we left off with them was Clark and Lois, giving them a loan to like get their dream home, and then now they're not only having first kid, but they got number two on the way. So I mean, there were a lot of things that did feel rushed. I mean, I will grant you that because of budget cuts and all those kind of things, it was one of those things they had to do because just reality of what the cards they were dealt for this season.
Yeah. Did I can't remember the Flash series finale. Did we watch Iris and Barry grow old?
The Flash season finale honestly was forgettable. The only thing I remember from the finale was I think Barry did have the same type of monologue, and I think we did see the extended Flash family as far as like other characters.
Hmm.
I think they had their version of what was his name, Max Mercury. And the only reason why I just remember that is because I just remember Max from the comic book. Yeah, this finale will actually stick with me because I think part of it was I'm more honestly about a time with this show. I'm a lot more invested in the characters now. I never with the Flash. I just got to the place where I just didn't care.
Oh yeah, I know. I was there.
Yeah, and we both were there. But this show, I still, I still cared. I mean, and I
Right.
feel like about these characters, and I think that's why it hit. And I think also just, you know, whenever, a lot of the moments, for example, I think the ending with Lois and Clark and the monologue and stuff did feel earned. So,
Uh-huh.
whereas the Flash, I just felt like whatever they did, I was just so burnt out with the show. It's like ended already. Take it out of his
Right.
misery. Yeah.
I think you also felt I think there was also a feeling with the Flash where because what it had 8 seasons, 9 seasons,
9 seasons, if I recall. Yeah.
9 seasons. We had seen everything. They had done
Mhm.
everything, so it was rinse, wash, repeat.
Yeah.
Even with monologues, there were probably better monologues. Like the season finale, first season, iconic.
Yeah.
Like that that is how you end a season. Arguably, that should be how you end a series.
Yeah.
But because of that, so I think to your point, this being 4 seasons, the last one is like the shortest season. They didn't have a lot of time to rinse, recycle, repeat, and
Mhm.
all of that. So yeah, it did from that perspective. It is fair to say that it was earned, and it wasn't tiresome. And like we have already heard that way back in season 2.
Yeah.
Um, so, and I do remember the Arrow series finale mainly because it was a bit like they jumped the shark so much in that last season
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that by the time the series finale aired, I was just like, I'm just watching this just so that I can make sure what I think will happen. And and it kind of did. And it was a very sweet scene, even though like they did a very much like Oliver had to die,
Hmm.
and but then he gets reunited with Felicity in the afterlife, and it's cute and
Yeah.
it is memorable, but I don't think for the right reasons.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the other thing too, because we are really closing the chapter on the CW DC TV with the ending of Superman and Lois, and as we think back to the Arrowverse itself, and and this show to, did in some ways like, and we've talked about it when it first started. It was a mature version of like this is Arrowverse 2.0 or CW. I mean, at that point it was like CW verse. They didn't even call it Arrowverse anymore, and it had a distinct tone and flavor. So I think that also, made it between that and also, even though it probably had it could have probably had another season in it. I think ending it with this story and how they, they went into this season knowing that it was the last, and they
Right.
were able to like really craft a story that really made sense for the world that they built over the previous, over the previous 3 seasons. And really, season 3 and 4 really just they just bled were really just one continuous thing almost, especially given that they had a reduced episode count with the fourth and final season.
Yeah, yeah. I agree that I don't agree. You always say that, but I'm like, I never agree with that. This does feel like a CW show to me.
Oh
It
yeah.
always
Oh,
has. It definitely, there are some episodes, but I think overall the quantity of episodes, like the number of times when I've complained about the teenager storylines and mainly
yeah.
Sarah's storyline.
Yeah. True. True.
I got so upset. Um, that I'm just like, oh, it so leans into CW, but then it has these other things and these other episodes that are standout, also known as the episode with miscarriage in season 1,
Hmm.
iconic,
Hmm.
very memorable, and so I think silver lining of the fact that it probably did have at least 1 or 2 seasons. I mean, arguably, it could have gone on for 9 seasons. I mean,
Yeah.
Smallville went on forever.
Yeah.
So but because it has to bow out early, it was able to not fall into those traps that we've seen other shows at this caliber fall into, because it just goes on way too long,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you lose sight of what you started,
Yeah.
and then you jump the shark, or you just kind of meander, and no one likes a meandering TV show.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
So it was fun, CW. It very very kind of sad, but it's bittersweet. Like it had to end.
Yeah, it had to end. It had to end. At least they, they were, like I said earlier, they gave them the term. They knew what they were facing, and they were able to craft a story to give these characters a proper send off instead of and I think they learned from the examples that we just shared. I think they learned what not to do with the send off. At least, I mean, at least for me, it worked. I honestly had forgotten about the how the Arrow final episode happened there with the them joining. I mean, I remember them joining the afterlife, but some of the particulars of that final season, you're right, they did jump the shark quite a bit.
I kind of remember also because they play at some point, I think it's in this series finale, they play a song that during the mid-season finale I used to craft a fan video.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah,
and I still have comments on that one that says like, you predicted.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
But I can't, I'm not sure. I might be getting it confused with the season finale. Or when Felicity left, because that was another weird thing about the last season. Like, once the actors start leaving, then the show needs to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Because we started with a core group, and the core group should stay till the end. I mean, Flash had that all over the place. And thankfully Superman and Lois never got to that point. But well, that is a wrap on CW, Arrowverse, Superman.
It's like closing a chapter on Cena Nerd here too. It's like this is like what got us started was these shows. maybe that was kind of like also like that came into my mind whenever I was watching this the finale there. I was like, yeah.
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 And that leads us to Dune Prophecy, season 1, episode 4, Twice Born. Okay, this is the longest IMDb.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So I'm just gonna say, because there is a bunch of different stuff that happens in this episode. So it says, after nearly all the acolytes have the same nightmare, Tula attempts to understand the origins of their disturbing dreams. Meanwhile, on the eve of the Great Lanzard meeting, Valia sets her plan in motion to redeem House Harkonnen. Inez confronts her father about rumors surrounding Desmond, and Kieran conspires to advance a rebel attack that the Sisterhood must try to thwart. Yeah, that definitely summarizes, and yet at the same time does not spoil or any of the, especially the end, and we'll get to the end, the what the fuck moment I had.
There's always one of those episodes.
What? I mean, we've talked about this show now. I can't believe it's only the 4th episode. There's something about this show that I feel like we've been on this path longer. And so when I sat down on Sunday, I was like, this is only the 4th episode.
Yeah. Well, this IMDb summary pretty much captures what I felt after watching the episode. And I was like trying to figure out, like, okay, there was a lot packed into this, so much packed into it, to the point where I was just like, I just felt it was like overstuffed. That they and it didn't leave room for things to really marinate. And within the season or the episode, it was just like boom, 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 boom. And also, you're right, there was definitely the what the fuck moment, but at the same time, I was kind of like, I don't know, this episode, it's just the show. I mean, I like watching it, but I'm also feeling it also just leaves me cold after I finish watching it.
Yes. And that goes back to what we were talking about last week. Like, there's no real protagonist. There's no one like you're really rooting for, because you're still not entirely sure what the stakes are. And you're not entirely like, they've managed to show you so many perspectives that you're just like, okay, well, now that I understand all these perspectives, I'm still like, everyone's just there.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
It's just
it is, I think you put it correctly. Like, it leaves you with a cold because, like you were saying, it was overstuffed. And when I reflect back on the episode, it's this weird, it has a very strange pace.
mhm,
And I say that about all the past 4 episodes, of where stuff, like, mechanics are moving,
mhm,
plots are moving, conspiring is happening, yet simultaneously it feels slow.
yeah,
Like,
yes,
it's this very weird thing where I'm like, I don't understand why this show feels slow, yet there's so much politicking happening.
mhm,
And so it'll be interesting to see if in the next few weeks we can really identify what's the cause of that. But that being said, I do want to start with Tula and the
yeah,
acolytes.
yeah,
Um, because I think that's the best way to tackle this episode and talk
mhm,
about storylines. Because
mhm,
thankfully they are kind of isolated to an extent.
they are.
But and I just have to say, with the acolytes and the sisterhood, I still think one of the strengths is how horrific, like, they lean into the horror. And I
Mhm,
don't like horror, but it makes sense. And
mhm,
there's this thematic undertone of tension that they've been able to get. Like, when you see the dreams, I forget if how long it took me to realize it was a dream. um but what I did not, for some reason, I did not make, I'm gonna admit this, so nobody make fun of me, Will. But I did not make the connection with how they kill themselves in the dream with how Dorit was murdered.
oh, hmm,
Yeah, it took me until they pointed that out, for like,
mhm,
oh yeah, that's,
yeah,
she's
yeah.
still doing stuff.
She is, yeah, and I think you and I'm glad you started our discussion with some of the plot points with the strong, quite frankly, the strongest part of this episode. Honestly, I'm feeling like Tula is the strongest character other than Desmond in this series.
Yeah, yeah, I would
Um,
agree.
because I mean, she's just a fascinating character. You know, she is really Valia. You can kind of see, see her plans and stuff are coming a mile away. Tula, with her things that she's doing here with the, trying to get Lila, with the machine, with the thinking machine, and like you said, with this session, trying to, like, do the session to, like, really get the acolytes to get all of them together, and they do this artwork, pick up the charcoal and start doing all that kind of stuff. I mean, that was just like you're right. They leaned into that. They leaned into the horror of it, and it just and it really sets up things so well, especially as far as this philosophical thing. I know whenever we were, chatting a little bit last night or night before, about, at least I made the point about the mystical versus the technology, and
Yeah.
this really dives into that mystical realm of Dune that so many people talk about, and so, yeah, so, to your point, whenever we realizing that, this is what she's seeing, as far as, the original goal was to see what Raquel's message was, but
Mhm.
in doing so, now they're actually, seeing what, Loretta, they, what she and her acolytes are really trying to, like, what they were envisioning in that, in the agony there.
Well, I think it's both.
Yeah.
I don't think it's one or the other, because I don't think Doretta has complete control over it either. Like,
Mhm.
she found this tunnel, or this communication,
Mhm.
that they, like, essentially opened a door, and she's like, I'm just going to leave a crack.
Yeah.
Okay? because there's other secrets and other history and facts that have to get out there so I can really tamper the waters with the acolytes.
Yeah.
While simultaneously, they are getting closer because by the end of this whole let me put you under and you draw your dream sequence, they all ended up at the same point, which is a dark figure. It's pretty much what's inside of the worm, kind of, and it's two blue eyes.
Yeah.
And then there's a noise that for a moment, and I know this isn't right, but for a moment there's like this interesting sound design that's used that almost feels like machinery. And so it's like, okay, is that a thinking device? Like, are they one in and of the same? So the mystery of this reckoning, you would think it would be kind of annoying, but it is like, okay, so what's really going on here? And how is it all connected, especially with what's going on with Desmond and as we learn what's going on with Theodosia. So and then to your point, like all of that mysticism, only then to go back at the end of the episode for Tula to feel like, okay, like I said last week, Leela, you have to be the twice born. You have to be. And then they end it with another, or they end the storyline with another horror moment where I was just like, because she's in a dream, and as soon as I saw the stand pouring, I was like, okay, this is a dream. This is a dream.
Yeah.
Wake up. I don't like being here.
Yeah.
But then when she woke up, I didn't like it either, because you see the whole thing that Leela was in was cracked open, and you don't know where she is. And then they like, you go to a dark screen, and I'm like, I'm not gonna look. I'm not gonna look because you're gonna do a jump scare. You're gonna do a jump. But I don't know. And now Leela's awake. So what does that mean?
Yeah.
And yeah.
But also, and I mentioned that Valia also, again, it has, what she, she's trying to control things back, and we'll get to what's going on the capital world soon. But, but Tula also, they both are in their scheming in their own way. They're, whenever, with Tula in this situation with the acolytes, I mean, she lost control of what she was trying to do, and the other sister was like, pull him out of it, because she again. So they're both flounder, so yes, she has her mission as far as trying to get what the reckoning is about, and trying to learn what the premonitions are that for the sisterhood. But at the same time, she's also still, we've seen her flounder now twice with whenever she starts dipping her toe in this realm. I mean, the first was having Lila, carrying out the mission of Lila in the agony, and then now this. So it's just, so again, it's just, yeah.
To your point, she flounders when she is pushed, or she tells herself she's doing something because it's what her sister would do.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's really her downfall. It's like, we don't know for sure how much Viola knew about the plan to get revenge for Griffin. We don't really know. But she was able to accomplish that, and yet she's still trying to prove herself to her sister. And honestly, the decisions that she makes where she flounders the most, it's not the sisterhood. It's mainly to protect her sister, because it's not Tula. It's not, no one else had any hand in Doretta's death except for Valia.
Right.
So it's very, I like that the sisters are separated. And you see how much like that sibling nature of them. It's not a rivalry.
No.
But so, which I applaud the writers for. It's not a rivalry, which we've seen 10,000 times. It's more of like, I am so tethered to you that I will follow you to hell.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Granted, we've seen the rest of the Harkonnens, so I can't necessarily fault Tula for being like, "You're my life raft. Get me out of here."
Yeah.
Which, man,
Yeah.
and I will say to go into more of Valia's stuff, that I know in the past I've questioned about this whole, why is it the Harkonnen above all? And I think they proved it to me in this episode that no, for Valia, after Griffin was avenged for, it's the sisterhood above all.
Mhm.
She could care less, and that's why they have not had a true stayer for so long.
Yeah.
While simultaneously, she has to go back to them because with her political power, she has to utilize them to get her and the sisterhood to where she wants it to be, which is like to restore that which was lost.
Yeah.
So I understand more now. A lot of the questions I had from last week, I felt like were a little bit more answered in terms of her and what she's doing in this episode.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, it's basically, and even the uncle calls her out on some of those kind of things too.
Right.
So yeah. So yeah. So the questions were answered, but again, I think she really, but at the end of the day, though, she could care less about her family. You're right. It is sisterhood above all, and it's also, and she's just, you're right. She's just using the family. It's just so transactional, just to get to be able to seize the sisterhoods in the place because she's lost her influence, because after what happened, she got expelled from the castle, so she's trying to figure out ways to get back into the Imperium's good graces.
Yeah, because it's all about power. And there's even a line in this episode that when you grant, and I think it's related to Corian, but it's very much applicable to Vila and to what we're seeing occur. You give someone so much power, singular person, their only actions after that are, how do I preserve?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's just, how do I preserve this? How do I protect this?
Yep.
It's not, I think it was a very astute observation, and I think I liked how it applied to a few different characters that we were seeing in this episode. And by the end of it, she kills another one.
Yep.
Kills her uncle.
Yeah. Very just
no sorcery used.
Yeah, the sound design with the coughing and the gagging, and I mean, I was retching, like I was sitting there watching it, because it was just so stomach turning watching it in so many levels.
Right.
So I guess, yeah, I did say that show leaves me cold, but like I said, there are moments. That was one of the what the fuck moments. Not even though there was a much bigger one at the end.
Yeah. I also like, I didn't copy this word for word, but she pretty much tells Harrow, her nephew, the past has branded us, but the future can redefine us, and you are the future of this house. It's every time I say Valia is now sisterhood or above all, she still holds a torch for the Harkonnen. And whether it's the downfall of her family or her place in her own family, like I think it's so nuanced. And fortunately, at the same time, I feel like they just have not found a way to get it to the point where viewers can like have real empathy, because we still don't really understand what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
and
You're right.
and it's like this weird thing where it's been a while since I've struggled with this in a TV show, where I want to like you more, I want to empathize with you more, I want to understand you more as a character, but for some reason the writers don't want to tell us the history. Which that doesn't help me.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
the
It's
history
not
is
like,
very important in this sense.
yeah, it's like, like I think you said last week with, we were talking about how, at least with, like, for example, Penguin,
Yeah.
you could, like, even though you knew he was just a bad dude, but somehow you still just rooted for Oswald. Here, it's just like, I just can't root for Valia. I just can't.
Yeah. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you don't understand. You can't believe her. You can't
Yeah,
trust her.
yeah,
Not in the same way that you can't trust Oz,
yeah.
but with Thalia, you can't trust her because she has a claim
Hmm.
that as a viewer you have yet to validate.
Yeah.
So if we were to know that, yeah, we can see why she thinks it's a lie that caused her outcast, but in reality it's the truth,
Hmm.
then we could at least be like, okay, I understand. but we have nothing. We're
Hmm.
not really sure what the chain of events were surrounding that whole incident that caused the Harkonnen family to become outcasts. And because it's so pivotal and it feels very nuanced for this character, that's why it's causing such harm to the
Hmm.
overall show itself. Because I think about Game of Thrones and House of Dragon. House of Dragon, we entered the house. We were shown a brief clip about how Viserys came to power,
Hmm.
and then they just planted seeds, sprinklings of like his relationship with Daemon, his relationship with his daughter, how
Hmm.
he killed his wife in a way.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
like the and then the history kind of was speckled throughout the season. But and I'm thinking about it, the history didn't seem as important as the events of current day
Hmm.
did in that
Hmm.
show.
Yeah,
Where here, because of this torch that Valia is carrying, it feels so important for her character that with us not having it,
hmm.
it feels incomplete.
There you go. That bingo. That's what's missing in the show. I mean, they're trying to do you're right. I mean, they're trying to do the House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones kind of political, history and all that, fill in the rest. But you nailed it. I mean, I think that's the missing element that's making it hard to connect.
Yeah, yeah. And that brings us to Desmond Hart. I still like Desmond.
Hmm.
Um, his character just always seems like he's high. It just seems high, and some very weird things happen. I do like he has a very weird relationship with the Emperor at
Yeah,
this
he
point.
does. Yeah.
And I'm not sure what they're trying to insinuate, but we see him, and he's ripping out pages of the books that
Hmm.
the Trusayer Kasha left behind, and Carino comes to him with seeking guidance because pretty much everyone knows that he was involved in Pruitt's death. I mean,
Yep.
call
Yeah.
spade a spade.
Yep. Yeah.
And I like Desmond's line of, the time to snuff a fire out is when a fool lights a match, not when your house burns down.
That was a great line.
Yeah, it's kind of like, dude, we've started this.
Yep.
Okay, I don't know why you're so not
Yeah.
up to the challenge, which I do appreciate how they've managed to continue to show us the differences between the Emperor and the Empress and
Yep.
just their interactions with Desmond.
Hmm. Yeah. Speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Everything we need to know about, about why Carino is just, feckless.
Yeah. And I mean, I was. Were you surprised when Empress Natalia was just like, "Oh, Desmond, that was me."
Yeah,
I
no, I
started.
wasn't at all. I was like, okay, that saw that coming a mile away.
Yeah, yeah. And I appreciated how she also explained it. I want to understand more about her and this weird rivalry she has with the sisterhood,
Yeah.
because my God, she knows their tactics.
Hmm. Yeah,
She
she does.
knows them. So did she study and what? Like, I know they were involved in the arrangement of her marriage, and so
Hmm.
there's a story there for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, for sure.
Very interesting. What's not interesting to me, and in my opinion, the weakest part of these episodes and this show so far is every time Kieran and Yanez are on the screen
Thank
together.
you. Okay, see, even though we had our disagreement with Superman and Lois, we are 100%. I have my notes. The weakest link is that story,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that character. I mean, she just basically comes there and has a little, fit about, during breakfast, and I was just like, that scene was completely pointless. I was just like, really? I mean, yeah.
yeah. She started so strong.
Exactly. That's why I'm so disappointed, because I was like, this is going to be a very interesting character. And now it's just like, yeah.
They've put her into this mode of being a brat and
Hmm.
disagreeing and then going to kiss her boyfriend.
Hmm. Yeah.
Not boyfriend. And it's just, I don't know, they put her in a very stereotypical role.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still don't know what they're doing with Constantine. I
He
haven't
just,
figured that out at
yeah.
all.
He's just there to be just the sulky brother. I mean, it's just, yeah, but that was definitely the weakest points of the episode this week for sure.
Yeah, it just when they're on screen together, it turns into, albeit a CW show. It
Yeah,
just
exactly.
I'm just like, it doesn't feel like the same thing I have been watching with the adults. Why are we at the children's table all of a
Yeah.
sudden?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
really care about this.
Yeah.
And I don't really buy their affection for one another or anything.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I
um,
mean, to your point, yeah, there was the exposition about him, the whole rescue, and she was kidnapped and stuff. But again, they were telling, but not. It was just again the telling again of things in history, but it's just like a telling of the lie from with the Atreides and the Harkonnens from the beginning. It's just like, okay, okay, fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know with that. And the big event of this episode was the council meeting,
Mm.
and where we saw this plot, and and Valia views it as an opportunity for her to get in good faith with get it back into the good graces of
Yeah.
the Emperor by bringing forward Kieran and his rebels for using the technology, the forbidden technology as they call it.
Hmm.
But then Desmond shows up and pulls that plan right out from under her.
Yep.
And then he gets approval to use his powers. And so we not only have now seen a kid and a woman die from burning the inside out, but now a few other people.
Yeah. Yeah. That one dude, he was just like,
Never
you
gets easier.
yeah. Yeah. He ripped it. Yeah. Right there. And they were like, okay, how gruesome can we get?
Yeah.
Well, we'll show you.
Yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't need it. The sounds were doing enough for me.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't need to see this. This is going on a bit too long.
Mhm.
And his one the one annoying thing that happens that had to happen is he leaves behind a blood sample that Valia can then take and then learn more about her enemy, which is foreshadowed in a previous scene. But I I just liked how I liked a lot of the mechanics of the whole council meeting because there were a lot of players, a lot of different plot points that they had set up coming together, getting a bit resolved, but also just like the tension rose and then they resolved it, but now there's new consequences to lead us into the final 2 episodes of the season. But Will, unless you have anything to say about the council meeting, this just brings us to the what the fuck moment at the end.
No, I think we've covered it well.
Okay. So, Theodosia. So they allude to something in the beginning or fairly early on about because she questions Valia, why did he take me with you? And it's like, well, you know why. And I'm sitting there like, nope, I don't. Clue me. But it's a good space where they don't tell you anything. So you don't know, but it's far enough removed where you kind of forget about it. And then at the end, after Valia kills yet another family member, she looks up and she sees Griffin. And I'm totally on board with like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You kill the uncle, you see a brother. Yep. This is why Valia is the way she is. So, and they have a sweet moment. And then the conversation is weird because it's like, I've pushed you too far. And then she says the name Theo. And I'm just like, what? Who's Theo? It took me until we actually saw the face for me to be like, oh, she's a shapeshifter. Okay. Cause I was like, you got another brother who you inadvertently got killed in this whole dream. I was like, who's Theo? Why am I so? But here's why it was a what the fuck moment. It wasn't that, oh, she's a shapeshifter. I feel like because she picks something up and the whole line about have I pushed you too far? So in my mind, I'm like, wait a second. So was Theodosia undercover at the council meeting? And if so, as who? And like, was she Kieran? And then my mind really starts to go because I think the sound design of this show needs to get awarded because you start to hear like someone being suffocated and struggling to come out. Like there's whoever she took over and is standing in the place, they make it come off like that person is still inside, yet they're struggling and they can't get out. It's a really intense sound that is being made. So I just was like, what the fuck? What am I supposed to understand from this and what is happening right now? Because Theodosia also is leaving, which tells me, oh, okay, so has she not yet taken the place of whoever? Like, I want to say it's Kieran. I want to say.
Yeah, because I mean, I know, because the way the whole scene plays out, she shows up as Griffith. And then as we go, they go to the adjoining room and he, shape-shifting they're starting to transform into somebody else.
Right. But we don't know who.
And it fades to black. So.
My other, because there's a scene right before the council meeting between Constantine and his father. And it's very different than any other scene we've seen between them in previous. It almost feels like maybe that's who she's taking the place of.
Maybe. But I know they like set it up before, or maybe I don't know if it happened before. I mean, I know because they too, as you noted earlier, there was the line about set that
Yeah.
she has some gifts. So I don't know if she if that you can read it one way, or you can read it both ways. You could be like, I need you to do it now, and then she did it earlier,
No,
knowing
no,
that
it definitely, she's done it. Like,
yeah,
that was the whole reason why Valia picked her to come with
yeah,
her, because she
yeah,
knew and has seen her do this.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so you're right. I mean, I guess yeah. So I think your interpretation is right. I mean, I think she has done it before, and now Vi is going to use her again for whatever purpose that I guess we'll find out in the next week or so.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also leaving out the questions of, well, why is she able to do this? And I feel like there's implications that comes from the spice, because the way the power
Hmm.
materializes is very similar to what we've seen Desmond do.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
there's
yeah.
they managed to expand upon, like, it's not a one-off that Desmond has this ability. And
Right.
also what we learn about Desmond's ability is there are consequences, because he has all of these lashings on his back for
Hmm.
is implied every time he uses this, and we see the pain, which just tells me, like, I don't know, like, maybe she also doesn't, Theodosia is against using this gift because in in the end, the longer she's pursuing this persona, the more likely that other person will die or something.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, but it definitely clearly, like Desmond and others, and also we also see like Lila, as far as whatever she does emerge from the tank back on Wallach Nine. There is a consequence of being this, I guess, twice born, once in blood, once in spice, and so yeah, so maybe maybe that's part of it too. It's just like for Theodosia, it's like it just exacts such a toll on her,
Yeah.
to use his power, and I guess it's overall. I mean, I think this the titled episode does, like, really speak to the twice born, is really a reference to many characters within this story. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in a way, both Valia and Tula were born
mhm.
again when they joined the sisterhood.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
it, I really enjoy that title. The more we talk about this episode, I can see a lot more about the fuller picture, despite the weaknesses we've discussed and
hmm,
the boldness of it all.
yeah,
Um, but we'll see. They got 2 more hours and then some minutes
yep.
to really lock it up. And I'm not mad at this at all so
No,
far. Um, definitely room for improvement, but not mad, not disappointed. So
no.
on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on all the socials at Will M Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me there too at SJ Belmont, SJBLMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at Cena Nerd. Follow us on Blue Sky at Cena Nerd. Friend us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram and Threads at scene_n_nerd. And visit our website, www.scenanerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.